spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed-up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed-up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed-up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed-up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed-up world.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot Podcast. My name is Lynn, your host, and Ken's my co-host. Ken, how's it going?
Oh, Lynn, it is going. I am so happy to be here. We've got a great show ahead, and thank you for making this all possible.
Yes. We are the #1 Disneyland podcast, hosted by 2 former Disneyland Custodial cast members.
#1.
And let's not forget, this is episode 319.
319. Lynn, that is an impressive number.
It really is.
I can't believe it.
I can't either.
Yeah.
And also, we are authors of 2 books, both called Cleaning the Kingdom. There's 2 different volumes. And you can get those books signed by both Ken and I on our website, thesweetspot.com. Or you can get non-signed copies on Amazon or Kindle versions for both books, and the audio version for the first book. We're working on the second one for audio.
If you're listening to this like right after it dropped, you can come by and see us at Unicon in Las Vegas. So it's amazing that we're able to do this as we're doing Unicon. So
It is. And in fact, if you want to hear us talk more, we will be doing a 30-minute discussion on Friday, October 1st at Unicon at 4:30 p.m. sharp.
yeah, be there or be square.
Yes. And we will be at a booth. The booth number is U2. Isn't that funny? Because I like the band U2. They just gave me that number. And we are going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So if you're in the area, go to you can just search Unicon or go to our website. Go to their website and get tickets, and all the information's there. Also, we have a Patreon where if you'd like to help support our show and keep it running, we would truly appreciate it. And you can do that by going to Patreon, searching the Sweep Spot, and we have 2 different types of ways to join. There's $5 and $7.49. $7.49 because that was our department number when we worked at Disneyland for custodial. And for that, you get 1 bonus episode per month, and we've got a lot of good feedback from the people that are listening to those once a month, and they really enjoy it. So join them and join our Patreon and help us out if you can. If you want to help us out in a way that you maybe don't have money, which we totally get, you can go over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to our podcast where they allow reviews and leave us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate it. Anything else, Ken?
Unless they take 10 stars, and then if you leave us a 5-star review,
the highest, the highest
bumper. Yeah. Well, I wanted to know who's going to be on this episode.
We're going to have back one of ours, not the favorite, but one of our favorite guests on the show. I don't want to exclude, some of the other guests that we've had. We love them all, but yeah. But anyways, a fan favorite, I should say, is Mr. Jim Korkis will be joining us. So as you probably saw in the description of the show, but anyways.
But I hope we can pry something out of him, because that guy is so reluctant to talk
share.
much.
Yeah.
He's No, but seriously, Jim is always great, and I'm looking forward to talking with him because I always learn something new with Jim, and if you like the way if you like him on the show, get his books. Even if you don't like him on the show, get his books, okay?
No, we love Jim. We truly do. He's a great guy. He does all his research. He triple checks everything, even more if he can. So we really enjoy his information and what he brings to the show, and I know our listeners do too. So before we get into that, though, we're going to have the current events. Now we're going to have the current events. Ken, what do you have for us?
Lynn, the candlelight is coming back.
Okay.
I can see the candle is lit. It's now illuminated. So, yes. Well, the Candlelight Processional is returning to Disneyland this holiday season. Permits show. Can you imagine they have to file permits to do a show inside Disneyland?
Yeah.
This is from Brady McDonald at the Orange County Register that it is back. They didn't do it last year for some reason. I guess Disney was just tired of doing it. But no, it says here that Disneyland filed a permit with Anaheim received on Tuesday, September 28th for the installation of the Candlelight Processional at the Main Street USA train station, according to city records. The city permit calls for the installation of outdoor steel platforms, audio and show lighting towers, and movable folding viewing seats, as well as a giant fire pit for moshes. Oh, no, I think I added that last part. But, so the candlelight's back, and it's, we all know how popular this is. It's extremely popular. Even though they don't really publicize it, but it's just an annual tradition. As it says here, Disneyland has not yet announced dates for the West Coast version of Candlelight Processional. If tradition holds, and there's no guarantee of that with the tradition-busting pandemic, the Candlelight Processional should be held at Disneyland on Saturday, December 4th, and Sunday, December 5th. Now, December 5th, what is that? That's a certain date in history. Yeah, something. Yeah, yes it is. Okay, glad you remembered. Okay, many Disney family births and deaths in December. So, okay, a celebrity narrator kept a surprise until the first show tells the story of the first Christmas between songs. Past narrators have included Cary Grant, John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, Gregory Peck, Charlton Heston, Marilyn Manson, Henry Fonda, Dick Van Dyke, Chris Hemsworth, and James Earl Jones. And I might have just slipped an extra one in there. But, yeah. So, James Earl Jones, there you go. You got Darth Vader doing Candlelight Processional.
It'd be amazing if he did that, if he did the the Darth Vader voice the whole time.
Well, I'm sure he was doing... what the Lion King,
Oh yeah,
Mufasa.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So for some reason they didn't hold the Candlelight Processional last year, but it's back this year. Now, awesome. Maybe the reason they didn't hold it might explain the big attendance drop. It says in this next headline here from the Orange County Register, another Brady McDonald story, that there was an 80% drop in Disneyland attendance last year, report says.
Surprise, right?
Surprise. Well, I guess they just dropped the ball and nobody wanted to come see the Star Wars stuff. I mean, it was just, everybody's just like, I don't like Disneyland. I'm staying away.
Lack of advertising.
Must be. Nobody, it just completely fell off everybody's radar. It says Disneyland, Universal Studios Hollywood, and other major California theme parks saw 80% attendance declines in 2020 Due to COVID-19 pandemic closures,
Ding, ding, ding.
ding, 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 that kept the tourist destinations shuttered
Mhm.
for most of the year, according to a new industry report. And it further says that Disneyland attendance declined 80% from 18.7 million in 2019. 18.7 million.
Wow.
I remember when it was 12 million a year. 18.7 million in 2019 to 3.7 million in 2020, according to the Themed Entertainment Association.
Well, yeah, it was only open for 2.5 months, right?
Something like that. DCA saw a similar drop to 1.9 million, which was very much like its opening year. No, a similar drop to 1.9 million in 2020 from 9.9 million in 2019, according to the report. The Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World remained the world's most visited theme park, even after attendance dropped 67%. From 21 million in 2019 to 6.9 million in 2020. Disney's 4 Florida theme parks, which saw attendance declines in the 67% to 70% range, were closed from March to July.
Wow.
They were closed from March 2020 to July 2020.
Longer than that, right?
No, apparently no. From March, but they had limited. When they came back. So,
Yeah.
well, I mean, unless the
Downtown Disney, maybe?
They were open. See, for some reason, the ones in Florida were open.
Oh, Florida. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Florida. In Florida. Yeah, this is Florida.
Okay. I don't know why we were talking about Florida. Okay, all right.
Well, it's a comparison.
I know, I'm kidding. Okay.
Well, I figure I can bamboozle some people who normally would only want to listen to a Walt Disney World podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, listen to this. Hey. China theme parks saw the smallest declines worldwide in 2020, with regional parks that draw local visitors showing 10 to 30% drops, while larger parks like Shanghai Disneyland experienced a 51% fall in attendance, according to the report. Well, it's good, lucky them that they had a smaller decline in China. I mean, why should China have a decline anyway? Yeah. All right, so. Yeah, what do you think about that, Lynn?
Expected, right? When we were experiencing what we did.
How did Walt Disney World have less of an attendance drop? Gee, I wonder. Okay. So all these stories, by the way, are available at our website, thesweepspot.com. And if we've ignored a really big late-breaking story, it's because we're kind of busy in the middle of the, Unicon season. So, you're just so talented that you're able to do all this podcast, Lynn, in the middle of doing Unicon.
I know.
So I'm just surprised at your multi-talented abilities here. Okay. Okay. I want to, if you are an old softy like me, I want to warn you that you might need, you might get something in your eye with this next story. Okay. Mm-hmm. So hopefully I can get through it. All right.
Okay.
This is from the official Disney Parks blog. And as they report, family of fallen Marine visits Disneyland to rebuild lightsaber in his honor, leaves with unexpected tribute. And this is Elisa Greathouse from the Internal Communications area posted this, and she pointed out that Alicia and Herman Lopez remember how much their son Hunter loved all things Star Wars, even telling his parents before he deployed that he wanted to be buried with the lightsaber he built at Disneyland Park in November 2019. Less than 2 years later, 22-year-old Marine Corporal Hunter Lopez is being laid to rest, one of the 13 U.S. service members killed in an attack at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan on August 26th. His parents intended to honor Hunter's request, but I just couldn't find the courage to part with the lightsaber he built, Mrs. Lopez said through tears. So the Lopezes, along with their 18-year-old son and 17-year-old daughter, just 6 days after Hunter's death, drove from their home in Indio to build a replica of the lightsaber Hunter had created in Savi's workshop in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And this one, built by his entire family, would be buried with him. As we walked into Disneyland, the marching band was coming out onto Main Street and started to play a Star Wars song, Mrs. Lopez recalled. We don't know if it was Disney magic or whether it was Hunter, but either way, it felt good knowing he was there with us. A friend of the couple, both of whom work for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, helped arrange for the family to build the lightsaber privately at Savi's, followed by lunch at the membership restaurant Club 33, to which the friend belongs. As soon as Club 33 member services coordinator Rex Roberts heard that the family would be coming later that day, he advised a few resort leaders to see what else they could do, given Disney's legacy of honoring military service personnel, veterans, and their families. Members of Salute, the cast member business employee resource group that supports veterans and members of the military, connected with Dan Hughes, Vice President of Security at the resort. We took the American flag that was flying over Disneyland and quickly had it framed and created a plaque so we could present it to the family, Dan shared. In a space of 90 minutes, he was on his way to Club 33.
Wow.
And later on in the story, it points out, Star Wars was his passion, she said. He'd dress up as a Jedi for Halloween. He knew all the movies, all the lines, even the background characters. Mrs. Lopez laughed as she recalled that when she was pregnant with her second child, then 5-year-old Hunter asked if he could name the baby Uncle Owen, after the Star Wars character Owen Lars. They agreed to keep the name Owen and laughed as they explained to Hunter why they'd have to drop Uncle. In fact, Owen had enlisted in the Army just hours before the family received a knock on the door from casualty notification officers about Hunter, who had wanted to follow in his parents' footsteps in law enforcement with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. At Club 33, 13 glasses of champagne were lined up on the service counter on the day of the Lopez family's visit as a tribute to all 13 service members lost last month. So, yeah, it's very touching. And, people say Star Wars is just a silly movie.
Right.
But these things matter. Stories matter.
Yeah. And for Disneyland to go above and beyond, which they're known for, but they didn't have to do all of this. They could have done some of it. It still would have been amazing, but they even did even more by having the flag and everything.
Yeah. They did a lot. They did a lot, and nothing replaces losing somebody like that. But it's
your own son. Wow.
But he was obviously touched a lot. I mean, they were annual pass holders for many, many years, as the stories explain. For decades, the family was annual pass holders, and obviously he was a huge Star Wars fan. And like I said, stories matter. Stories have always mattered, and stories have mattered from the beginning of humans have been storytellers from the beginning, and they can matter. The stories we tell do matter. So the Orange County Register also covered that story, as did Laughing Place. So if you want to click through to read those, you can. But let's get back to something a little bit lighter. MiceChat.com reports from Dateline Disneyland, Jessica Rabbit covers up as Lightning Lane moves in at Disneyland. And that was an Angie Castro update from September 20th. And so I have a correction to make. Okay. Because last main episode during current events, we talked about Baby Herman.
Yeah. And
as they say here in this report, rumors circulated on social media that changes have already happened in the queue with the removal of Baby Herman's cigars. The rumors are unfounded, as the cigar props, both in an ashtray and in his hand, remain in place. Baby Herman's hand is animated. You just need to wait a moment to see the cigar move in and out of the baby carriage.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
Now, doesn't mean they won't change it in the future, but they are moving ahead with the changes with Jessica. So,
Yeah. And we already talked about that.
So, My Chat also has their other, the regular updates. Dusty Sage had one Disneyland updates, reservations about reservations as parks fill up, and that was from September 27th. As he points out, Magic Key fears materialize. He says, Magic Keys have been around for a month now, and although making park reservations has been mostly an easy process, we're noticing some big changes to park availability, which is sure to cause concern about the program and whether it is worth the high cost. Weekends and holidays are starting to book up further and further out, currently at least 3 weeks in advance, and expected to fill up even quicker headed into the holidays. Even making day of reservations for Disneyland during some weekdays has become difficult, especially on Oogie Boogie Bash nights. You can see that they have some graphics. You can see that both parks are now booked through mid-October on the weekends, with just DCA available on the weekends at the end of October, though you can still park hop after 1 p.m. if you manage to score a park reservation for either park. You'll also note that most of the weekdays this week are also booked. That's because the special discounted 3-day California ticket expires at the end of September. So folks are rushing to use up their allotment. If park reservations are booked solid and Disney still lets all those people, all those unused tickets, all those unused days expire, there are going to be some very upset folks.
Yeah.
Did you get stuck with an unused day on your 3-day ticket? Park reservations are a double-edged sword. On one hand, reservations help keep park attendance at a reasonable level. The shoulder-to-shoulder crowds are long gone, but unfortunately so are the spontaneous weekend trips to Disneyland for dinner and fireworks. Yeah. And I want to point out that My Chat also had Shelley, my old friend Shelley, has had a story, Trippy Disneyland History, an adventure through inner space. And as she points out, when I was 4, it terrified me. When I was a teenager, I laughed at it. Now I'm an old woman, and I remember it fondly. Disneyland's adventure through inner space. It was Disney's first Omnimover ride and last partnership with chemical company Monsanto. It had a swinging theme song written by none other than the Sherman Brothers, and it showcased polyester like no attraction before or since. So if you want to read all about that, you can click through. So now, unfortunately, Adventure Through Inner Space is long gone. Of course, they could bring it back in some form if they wanted to. Well, there's one place to go if you are trying to book your next Disney getaway vacation, and that is concierge.com. That's CONCIEARS.com, like mouse ears and concierge put together. They are our magical vacation planning partners because all they focus on is Disney vacations. So don't plan your next Disney getaway vacation without them. And you really should take another Disney getaway vacation. So whether you want to go to Walt Disney World, hey, celebrate the 50th, or Disneyland, or Disney's Aulani in Hawaii, or on a Disney cruise, or even Adventures by Disney, contact our friends at concierge.com because they will do the planning, they'll do the heavy lifting, they'll take a lot of stress off of you, and it won't add any cost to your vacation. They're keeping up to date on all the changes. And you should go before your favorite attraction becomes something that's written about in the history books. Go and see it now. So contact our friends at concierge.com and book a package with them, like a hotel stay and theme park tickets, or, a week on the cruise, something like that. Book a package with them and tell them the Sweep Spot sent you, and you'll get a special gift for doing so. So go ahead and contact our friends, concierge.com.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
Hello everyone, this is Eric Johnson with Concierge and welcome to the D180. While Ken and Lynn cover all things Disneyland, in the D180, we take a spin around the rest of the Disney universe and we do it in 180 seconds. Let's jump right in. We start our journey at Disney's Aulani Resort and Spa. What? I need to fit it in before the Walt Disney World 50 content. There's a lot again. This time it's mostly food. Hold your horses, okay, we'll get there. Anyway, Aulani. I had the opportunity to visit Aulani this past March, and wow, Oahu really is a paradise, and Disney's resort at Ko'olina is truly amazing. You can visit it during the winter months next year and save. If you stay more, you save more. Between January 4th and April 8th in 2022, guests who stay 4 nights will save 20% on their stay. Guests staying 5 nights or more will save 25% on their stay. And if you book those rooms between now and October 18th, your family will get a sweet $150 resort credit, good anywhere at Aulani. The resort is mostly open now with pools, the fitness center and spa, and 2 table service restaurants available. Oh, and the luau. If Disney doesn't open up their 3rd table service restaurant by your trip, there's still plenty to do around the resort and around the island. Check out our blog posts at concierge.com for more suggestions. All right, back to the magic at Walt Disney World. I know we cover a lot of content around the festivities at the 50th, but there's more. Always more. The festivities have only just begun. So, yeah, let's assume the rest of this is WDW50 content. Okay? Hot on the heels of Steakhouse 55 closing at Disneyland. Am I the only one who always seemed to sit in front of the giant picture of Walt with Shirley Temple? Anyway, Disney is opening up Steakhouse 71 at the Contemporary Hotel. Menus released recently highlight a great breakfast including Walt's prime rib hash, seasonal pancakes, omelets, grits, and plenty more to enjoy. Lunch is available, but dinner looks like the bee's knees. The restaurant will, of course, feature a wide variety of appetizers and steak cuts, filet mignon, New York strip, or a large serving of prime rib. Even a giant cut of pork rib chop is on the menu. Sustainable fish and a vegetable Wellington made of artichoke and mushroom inside a puff pastry shell round out the entrees. Disney World is all about the food lately, and the 50th anniversary was a great excuse to roll out tons of treats. For fans of Carousel of Progress, the Magic Kingdom guests can enjoy Uncle Orville's Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow Sundae inside a souvenir bathtub. Not bizarre enough for you? Be Our Guest is sporting a michelada with charred octopus tentacle inside. You've probably seen it on Instagram by now, or even the local news. It's getting out there. Fill up with a giant hot dog at Casey's Corner, covered with strawberry bacon jam and funnel cake pieces. Maybe a blackberry milkshake with a donut to celebrate the Haunted Mansion. Even the Skipper Canteen pays tribute to the original Adventureland Veranda menu with shrimp over a pork fried rice dish. Step outside the Magic Kingdom to find even more delights. At Tiffin's in Animal Kingdom, a chocolate gâteau with South African cream liqueur sauce. Hollywood Studios' Brown Derby features a filet mignon paired with Walt's favorite hash and egg. Get a cronut with iridescent sprinkles in Epcot. Disney Springs Ganachery is making a few different chocolate treats to celebrate the 50th as well. Head to the resort hotels for even more. Peanut butter banana pie at the Contemporary. Minnie's Brown Betty profiterole at the Grand Floridian. The Polynesian hosts a vanilla cupcake with a Dole Whip pineapple center. Find a vanilla cupcake with caramel buttercream and a gold Mickey atop at the still new Riviera. Wilderness Lodge sells chocolate cake with a 50th anniversary gold chocolate coin, and the Yacht and Beach Club Resort has birthday cake mousse atop a vanilla tart shell. Even Mickey's premium ice cream bars have wrappers that are adorned with Mickey in his iridescent costume from the 50th. So much glam to celebrate the most magical place on Earth. And that's, it's well more than 180 seconds, all right? I hope you enjoyed our quick spin around the rest of the Disney universe. If you'd like to learn more about these Disney adventures or just have a few questions, please come on over and visit the Facebook pages and websites of both the Sweep Spot and us, their official travel planners concierge. We look forward to planning something special for you and your family. I'm Eric Johnson, and this has been your D180.
time of day that's really cool. It's coming at you every day, right after school. Yo, everyone's gonna laugh and shout, because a Disney afternoon is what it's all about. Check it out. It's such a trip.
Okay, on this episode, we're going to return to our year series that we do. And this episode, we're going to do 1991. And to help us do that, we're going to bring back one of our favorite guests we have on our show. And that is author, Disney historian, Jim Korkis. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, thank you again for asking me to come back on. I always love talking with the two of you, and I always love sharing information with the listeners. But Disneyland 1991, seriously, guys, are all the good years already taken? Are you running out of years? Are we looking at the end of the road for this podcast? What's the story here?
1991 was a great year. I was there. I was there.
I was there too.
I was there as well. In fact, that was the very first year I was an annual pass holder.
Oh.
So that's why I remember it, because I went several times during 1991, and something that we'll talk about, I guess, a little later in the podcast. There was a limited special event that I took my niece and nephew to a couple of times, because they were just over the top for that. And I've got to admit, I was too. You know, it was exciting seeing some of those things. But again, that will be later in the podcast, so Don't tune out. Don't touch that dial. And we're going to start out. I understand you guys did some research and have some facts or things that we're going to start with that you're going to share.
So I always like to start with this just to kind of give everyone a little perspective. But the tickets for this year were $27.50. And
now remember, that includes admission and unlimited use of attractions, except the arcades.
Right. Yes.
And children, of course, were $22.50.
Right.
And Disney defined children as 3 to 11. But interestingly enough, out on the East Coast, Walt Disney World was defining children as 3 to 9.
Oh.
And also, Walt Disney World was a little bit more expensive. So we're talking, I think it's like $34 for adults.
Wow.
And don't forget that at Disneyland, parking was $4.
That's what I was going to say. Parking for. So this year they did a promotion for so I have it down for 2 months. They did a promotion for $20 for adults and kids, so they didn't have a separate price. And it was a way to increase attendance because of the economy at that time.
Yeah, well, and especially you have to realize that Eisner is in charge, so he's always looking for limited time special events that are going to drive additional attendance. And that included, as long as we're talking about ticket prices, I'm sure both of you must have these in your collection. In 1991, as part of the promotion for the sports franchises that Disney was obtaining, you know, they had the Mighty Ducks hockey team, and they were in negotiations for getting a portion of the California Angels baseball team.
Right.
Disneyland issued a special 5-card set of Upper Deck trading cards with a commemorative passport.
Ooh.
And of course, you issue that commemorative passport because people are so enthralled with that, they're not going to use it. So that's like found money.
Right.
And the cards are pretty terrible looking, in my opinion. You have Mickey Mouse in a baseball uniform, and the costumed character Mickey Mouse in a baseball uniform in front of Splash Mountain, and Donald Duck playing hockey, of course, right? Mighty Ducks.
Right.
With the Matterhorn in the background, and Goofy doing basketball in front of Big Thunder Mountain, and Roger Rabbit throwing a football in front of the floral Mickey. And like sports cards, there were statistics on the back of the card for the attraction, like the date it opened, what land it was born in, the height, track length, and more. And then there was also a short paragraph, which was really just a run-on sentence that listed some fun facts about that. But I'll bet that many of your listeners, even those who were there in 1991, probably don't remember it at all, which is also one of the reasons it probably was never repeated. And remember, 1991 was the year that Michael Eisner took home an $11 million in stock and salary for the year, and he was already pushing, the company into television sitcom production and rock music releases, and in publishing, forming both Hyperion Books and Disney Press. So those were born. And Disney Animation began reaching even greater audiences, with The Little Mermaid being topped by Beauty and the Beast being released in 1991.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, that's also the year that Howard Ashman passes away, as does Imagineer Leota Toombs. And so the question to ask is the same that we asked, about Walt Disney. What wonders could these people have done if they had just been given a little bit more time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what else you got for me here?
Well, I just have a list of all the attractions that are open that year, but
this is a challenging year for Disneyland because, once again, and this happens continually, the focus is being shifted to Walt Disney World's 20th anniversary.
Oh, right.
Where they're advertising 20 new surprises, including the opening of attractions like Muppet Vision 3D. And also, remember, in 1991, this is the year that the first DVC resort opens. And it's now called Old Key West, but originally it was just called the Disney Vacation Club Resort because they didn't figure it would really take off and be successful. Hardy har.
I thought you were going to say that it was the new Key West, but now it's Old Key West, because it's been so long.
Well, and actually, if you have never stayed at Old Key West, it is just wonderful. There's all of these allusions to the history of Key West, including when you go to the check-in desk, over to the left is this library that's called Papa's Den. And so it references Ernest Hemingway, who spent time in Key West and wrote some books. And so, you look up on the wall and you see this marlin, and you see fishing poles, and you go, that's Ernest. And then you see these statues of cats, and you go, oh, yes, Hemingway's house had all those six-toed cats, and there's all those little references there. And again, the Imagineers never put a plaque on them or a neon light flashing, but you take a look at that and you go, oh yeah, okay. And and again, you don't have to be a DVC member to go to Old Key West, and especially to eat at a wonderful place there called Olivia's, which serves an outstanding breakfast. But there's a whole storyline behind that. But that, again, is Walt Disney World, and we are Disneylanders.
That's right.
So we need to do that. And one of the things to draw into attention to get guests coming into Disneyland is they created the Celebration USA Parade, which went from June through November, and it was to honor the Bill of Rights 200th anniversary, as well as the men and women of Operation Desert Storm. So they would have some military people who had served in Operation Desert Storm up there, on the floats, and they comped in the person and their family to Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And the parade had several floats, including Old MacDonald Duck's Farm, and one devoted to working in the metropolis with Big Bad Wolf as the big bad boss. And along the floats, you had dancers attired in red, white, and blue, and characters from Disney Afternoon Live were also there, and a clever gag. And I wonder what happened to this prop for the floats.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you know, one of the reasons I do these podcasts is not just to promote my books, but hopefully by tossing this information out there, somebody out there listening might have another, you know, piece of the puzzle. During the working section, because you're celebrating America, and one of the sections is, you know, working in an office, and they had a walking coffee cup that had the name Jack on one side, and on the other side, a three-dimensional caricature of Disneyland president Jack Lindquist's face. Oh. And so I always wonder what happens to these things. I know that some of these things get sent to the boneyard. I know some of these things get recycled. Mm-hmm. That seems like such a specifically unique
very
prop. Where else do you use that, you know? And how do you approve expenditure to make something like that? The parade ended with a patriotically garbed Mickey Mouse on the railing around a gigantic recreation of the Statue of Liberty torch, you know? Yeah. And instead of the usual July 4th television show, because, again, for all of you youngsters out there, Disney didn't just air the Christmas parade at both parks. Mm-hmm. They aired a July 4th special celebration and parade, and they aired a Easter parade, you know, and those disappeared. But the Great American Celebration, with excerpts from this parade and all, and excerpts from both Disneyland and Walt Disney World were televised, but this was the end of the annual televised July 4th event at Disney theme parks. There were no more July 4th things after this, unfortunately. And again, you know, the more research I do on Disneyland, the more I agree with Walt that Disneyland is this living thing. It's constantly changing, and sometimes it adds some things, and if it doesn't quite work, then they just disappear, and nobody even, you know, pays attention because there's so much else going on.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't just celebrate America. They had, in 1991, they had the Disneyland Olympic Salute on June 22nd and 23rd, that's a weekend, and June 29th to 30th, that's another weekend. Mm-hmm. And a portion of each Disney admission was donated to the United States Olympic team. Oh. And veterans of past U.S. Olympic teams visited the park as well, and they were featured in the parade. You know, and Disneyland cast members carried the Olympic torch through Disneyland on July 3rd in an effort to heighten awareness of the U.S. Olympic festival there.
Wow.
So when was the last time they ran the Olympic torch through Disneyland, you know?
1991.
You guys are just too sharp for me. You're just too sharp for me. I can't keep up.
Well, we have to remember something else that happened was the year prior, they'd celebrated Disneyland's 35th anniversary with the announcement of the Disney Decade, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that was
that died out.
Yeah, that was, you know, well, we're going to expand into a full resort. We're going to have a second theme park.
We're going to build another resort. We're going to do this. Yeah. We're going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, WestCOT. They were going to build WestCOT.
WestCOT was not announced to the public until 1991, until May 1991. Yeah, don't pull a fast one on me, buddy.
No, I have it written down.
Yeah, so if you want to get to WestCOT, we can get to WestCOT because it's one of my very much one of my faves. But what I'm going to do, because again, this is one of those things that I'm passionate about, so once I get started, I can't stop. So why don't we start with the two of you,
Okay.
and then I'll fill in a little bit, and then I'll become the Jim Korkis steamroller and roll over both of you with information you may not have known.
Go ahead, Ken.
Well, no, I mean, yes, the specifics that it's going to be WestCOT were announced, but they had announced the year before the whole Disney decade, which included resort expansion. I mean, the first time they publicly...
Well, it actually started as early as 1987, where Disney executives, including Jack Lindquist, who we were talking about, began talking about a second gated theme park in Anaheim.
Right.
Because Eisner's goal was to make Disneyland a vacation destination, just like Walt Disney World was. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to make it a vacation destination if there's just Disneyland. As
that's why they had to get the hotel. They had to get the
theaters, stores, all of those things. And again, I will grant you that in 1990, that was when. It was pitched that it was going to be Port Disney Sea Long Beach. And that was announced. And then by 1991, when they announced WestCOT, that's Eisner, being the businessman, is trying to pit the two cities, Long Beach and Anaheim, against each other. And he's not sneaky about it at all. He actually announces in a press conference, whichever city can give us the better benefits,
yeah,
will get the new Disney theme park, which was conservatively estimated at that time at a little over $3 billion, which to me still sounds like a lot of money, but today it doesn't sound like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And construction was supposed to begin on WestCOT in 1992 with an opening date of 1998.
Yeah.
And it was the hope that if they built WestCOT, they would attract at least another 10 million guests annually just in the first year. For a total of 25 million visitors a year, to the Disneyland area, which, the parks are too crowded as it is, But again, I'm not running it as a business. That's the interesting thing. We talked about the ticket prices. Mm-hmm. I did some research, and inflation has usually gone up about 2 to 3% a year. Disneyland ticket prices have gone up 6 to 8% every year.
Wow.
And the point of that is, this was explained to me, was, Jim, if we gave people a $30 admission ticket, we would be closing the park by 9:30 every day because it would be packed.
It's true.
By raising the price, and again, Disney doesn't talk price; they talk value. But by raising the cost of the ticket, they're getting more value. They're investing in new things for the park and all this typical Disney spin. But the bottom line was, if the more you raise the ticket price, the fewer people initially who will come in, so you can control the crowds a bit more. And those who really want to come in will pay the price. And in fact, when I worked at Disney, they did a survey, and they found that people across the country usually saved up 3 to 5 years in order to come to Disneyland or Walt Disney World. And one of the reasons they did that survey is they wanted to know, how often do we need to change out new things?
Yeah.
But let's get back to WestCOT. This was and again, WestCOT was supposed to be themed like Epcot at Walt Disney World, with some significant changes, but the core philosophy was technological innovation and international culture. Now, do you know what two sections WestCOT was divided into?
No.
Okay. No, you don't have to know. That's why you invite me as a guest. If you knew, there would be no reason to, wake Jim Korkis up in the middle of the night to talk about these things.
Yeah.
Just like Epcot is divided into two sections, now it's divided into more. I can't keep up with everything that's happening. But at WestCOT, of course, would be right across the street from Disneyland. So basically the parking lot, and Disney owned more property around there and all of that. So that's where WestCOT would have been. It would have been divided into two sections. Ventureport, which would have been more or less the hub, and that relates basically to Epcot's Future World. And then you would have World Showcase, which was similar in tone to Epcot's version, but instead of having individual pavilions for the countries, remember you're working with limited space here, you'd have 4 pavilions, each pavilion representing a area of the world. So you would combine that. And the entrance to WestCOT is a 300-foot golden sphere called Space Station Earth. And there would be an omni-mover attraction inside called Cosmic Journeys, and it would have a combination of film and simulation technology and 3D. And remember, these were just blue sky things from the Imagineers. How they were going to go about building this stuff is anybody's guess. But basically, everybody would go into Ventureport, and from there spread out. But Ventureport had 3 pavilions, and these were all enclosed. And Tony Baxter said he enclosed them because that way they could control what was happening in the building. You didn't have to worry about what's outside. And again, because you're limited with space, it's going to be easy to see outside the berm and all of that. So these would have been buildings. There would have been 3 of them: Wonders of Living, Wonders of Earth, and Wonders of Space. Now, Wonders of Earth would allow guests to be immersed in exotic environments, such as a humid jungle or the hot desert or underwater or the frozen world of the Arctic, where guests could actually play with ice. Okay? The Wonders of Living Pavilion would be focused on the human mind and body and feature versions of Epcot attractions, Body Wars, Cranium Command, The Making of Me, and a significantly different version of the Journey into Imagination attraction, but still featuring Dreamfinder and Figment. And I could not get Baxter to tell me why that was a significantly different version, what his plan for his baby was going to be there. So those of you who know Tony, go bug him and say, what was the Journey into Imagination attraction at WestCOT going to be?
Yeah.
And then the Wonders of Space Pavilion would feature a journey through the cosmos, utilizing ideas for a proposed but never built space pavilion at Epcot. So basically they're trying to, as always, budget costs, because it's cheaper just to transport and transfer some of these already existing attractions. They know how the technology works. They know so you can get this done. And again, too, just like they did studies that they showed very few people, east of the mountains came to Disneyland. The same was true that people in the east rarely came to Disneyland. They came, but not in the numbers that they could, because again, just down in Florida, there's Walt Disney World. Right. Why do I need to go there? Now, World Showcase would have the 4 corners of the world. So there would be the New World, which relates to the Americas, and so it'd have a turn-of-the-century U.S. Main Street, in the spirit of the, and not in the one that Disneyland has, but in the spirit of the Centennial Fair in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And it would mirror that. Well, because they're always playing around with that. I talked with Imagineer Eddie Soto when he was designing Disneyland Paris. He was trying to sell Eisner on, since people in Paris don't have the same history as Americans. To change them, update the Main Street to 1920s America. So you'd have the Jazz Age, you'd have gangsters, you'd have the L Railroad, you'd have all of these things there. And again, he said he came very close, but again, it came down to money. It was just cheaper to duplicate what you already had rather than, try to reinvent the wheel. Well, anyway, the New World would also have an updated version of Epcot's American Adventure attraction. It would have a Native Spirit Lodge show that would represent Canada, because remember, this is all the Americas, and a Mexican Fiesta show and restaurant, along with another Spirits and Legends show reflecting Inca and Aztec cultures. And we're not finished yet, because again, this was all publicized as the 7 Wonders of WestCOT. So you've got the 3 Ventureport things, and you've got the 4 in World Showcase. The old world represented Europe, and it would have the Circle Vision 360 film from Disneyland Paris called Timekeeper, because that hadn't been brought over yet. It would have a Greek amphitheater, a Tivoli Gardens that would integrate a playground and rides for children, and a James Bond-style chase aboard the Trans-European Express Railroad, where while you looked out the windows, you would see famous European buildings zooming by as you're trying to avoid, being captured by spies. And eventually there were also plans to incorporate a Russian attraction based on a show that had been developed for the proposed but never built Russian pavilion at Epcot. They had done extensive work on that, and they were ready to go.
Wow.
The World of Asia would have had a thrill ride called Ride the Dragon. Now, this is a roller coaster, and it followed along the Great Wall of China into the Dragon's Teeth Mountain. And the trains would be designed to look like the Chinese lion dragon figures that we see in parades and all that. So you'd be flying in that dragon through all of this, and at its peak lift, to prevent people from seeing outside the park, there'd be billowing red and gold silks that engulf the moving cars. And there would be architectural details in the pavilion from Japan, China, India. For smaller children, there would be a carousel, but instead of horses, it would be composed of mythical Asian animals from all the cultures represented. And a white marble Indian palace would have housed a dining and entertainment area. And as work was developing, they also proposed that this area would have a copy of Tokyo Disneyland's Meet the World show. And I've got to admit, I would love to see it rather than having to fly to Tokyo Disneyland to see that. And boy, a controversial show, but Eisner took his chances. It was going to call the 3 Great Religions of the World show. Couldn't do that today, I don't think.
No.
And then the final pavilion would be the World of Africa, which would include a whitewater raft ride down the fictional Congo-Beezy River, and African drummers performing outside, and a farming culture exhibit, and plans for an Egyptian palace, and the storyteller tree where stories would be presented about African history. And remember that Disney had purchased the Tishman African art exhibit, and they had planned that for the Africa Pavilion World Showcase in Florida. They were going to include that. Now, what makes this even more interesting is the World Showcase pavilions would have the longest Disney ride ever made. 45 minutes long.
Wow.
Now, what this was, it's not as intimidating as you initially think, because there's a river of time which would circle the outside perimeter, which is where the World Showcase pavilions were. And you would get into this boat, and there would be 5 ports, right? The boat where you boarded, and then, a port under each of the pavilions. And as you went on this cruise, and they estimated it would take roughly about 9 minutes to each port. That's why it's 45 minutes long. There were scenes featuring audio-animatronic creations of moments like Leonardo da Vinci working on the Mona Lisa, or the burning of Rome, or Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel. If you've ever been to Spaceship Earth at Epcot, it's similar in style to those scenes, and they would tell that. And then each of the 5, you would have those scenes that would lead up to that particular pavilion. So you could get off and then explore that pavilion, then get on the boat, and then get back to, And this was fascinating to me, is the buildings of World Showcase were all going to be 6 stories high.
Wow.
And the first 3 floors would house the attractions, the retail shops. You got to have retail shops at Disney. Shows, restaurants, but the top 3 floors would feature hotel guest rooms. So it would be the first Disney Resort hotel within one of the theme parks. And Baxter came up with the phrase for the program, the Live the Dream program. The Live the Dream program. And they also proposed other hotels and a 7-acre public plaza and a collection of retail dining and entertainment facilities called Disneyland Center to be built around a 6-acre lake. So that's pretty much what downtown Disney was, but without the elaborate nature that they came. There would be the public esplanade between Disneyland and WestCOT.
Right.
And it would feature the Disneyland Center, so shopping, dining, entertainment. But unlike downtown Disney, there would be fountains, there would be extensive, elaborate landscaping, and then the Disney Bowl, which was a 5,000-seat live entertainment amphitheater, much like the Universal Amphitheater, and would located between the main plaza and Harbor Boulevard entrance to the park. And then there would be what was called the Disneyland Plaza, which was the transportation hub, because there would be 3 huge parking structures around the perimeter of the resort, one on the north side near Ball Road and a pair of others on the east side near where Melodyland Church used to be. And all of these parking structures had moving sidewalks that would go to a Peoplemover system that would shuttle up to 8,000 guests an hour from the parking structures to the parks and hotels.
Oh.
And one of the things Disney, boy, wouldn't that be nice to have now at Disneyland? And all comes down to money. And one of the things Disney wanted was new off-ramps from Interstate 5 that would directly feed in to the Disneyland parking structures. And they expected Anaheim to foot the bill. So basically, you'd be on the 5, and all you'd have to do is take the right off-ramp, and you'd be in a parking structure.
Wow.
Very, very much like what has happened at Disney Springs out here. There's an off-ramp from the 4 where you can go into one of the parking structures, and then either go up or go down, and there are little lights that tell you whether there are spaces that are available or whatever.
Right.
And, Eisner canceled Port Disney Sea Long Beach because he was just running into too much pushback from people who live there and from all the different committees that he had to deal with, and all of that. And so a lot of people feel Long Beach really missed out on a wonderful opportunity there.
Oh, yeah.
But Eisner had asked, okay, you've got to widen the roads because now we're going to have more people coming in here, whatever. And for Anaheim, he asked for a lot of the same things, not just the off ramps, but wider roads and some dispensation on taxes and stuff like that. And Anaheim residents weren't really happy with that. They realized, however, that Disneyland was what was pulling in people to Anaheim.
Oh, yeah.
That's why people wanted to go to. People didn't want to go to Anaheim to go down the block and visit Knott's Berry Farm. They wanted to come visit Disneyland. So when WestCOT was canceled, CEO Michael Eisner held a 3-day executive retreat in Aspen, Colorado, to come up with a new idea to use that land. And at that meeting, over 30 executives, the best idea they came up with was, let's do a California-based theme park that, became Disney's California Adventure, and we'll go on the cheap. We won't have Imagineering do the work. We'll go to the Disney Development Company that is building things for, the Disney parks and such. And so, of course, when Disney's California Adventure opened, yeah, and people say, why would we? California is just right outside. Why do we want to come here? Eisner's pitch was all the things would be in one area.
Right.
So you didn't have to go to the beach. You didn't have to go to the hills. You didn't have to go to the desert. It was all there. But again and again, because they went on the cheap, not something that Disney fans related to. And they tried to do all sorts of, we were talking about promotions. They were trying to do all sorts of promotions to get people to,
I remember that.
to come to Disney. And even today, yes, the Halloween party's in Disney California Adventure. That type of
But
stuff.
I had a question. So Epcot, why didn't they at least stick with? I know that Port Disney got canceled for those reasons, but what about the WestCOT idea? What happened to that?
Well, now you're running into, because again, this is part of the Disney decade,
Right.
and so it was a victim of some of the many things in the Disney decade were a victim of, including a Hollywood street at Disneyland, which would have had a Chicagoland section with Dick Tracy's Crime Busters, which we can talk about sometime if you'd like. So there's all that stuff. What is happening is Euro Disney is bleeding money. Because one of the reasons, of course, is that Disney overbuilt hotels, and it wasn't a European thing to stay in a hotel next to the resort. That was just not part of it. There were also cultural issues, and again, if they had built in Spain, a lot of this stuff would have, maybe been solved. But again, it was cheaper to build in France, and they thought, oh yeah, and the UK, which is one of our largest foreign audiences, is just across the English Channel. They'll be coming here in droves. Instead of saving up money to go to Walt Disney World, which they still did. So basically it was a drain on money, a drain on other projects that Eisner had announced, but were falling apart, and a lot of them were falling apart. I don't know how many of your listeners remember Mickey's Kitchen, but we can talk about that sometime. I went to Mickey's Kitchen, and I liked it, but there were a lot of mistakes made there. Because, again, Eisner was this guy who... I was there when Eisner said, I want to leave 2 legacies to Disney. One is entertainment architecture, which is every building is telling a story and has themes and all that. and the other was culinary, so that there would be healthier and more gourmet offerings in the Disney theme parks.
Mm-hmm.
And so out here at Walt Disney World, even when I was working, people were still laughing about the fact that Eisner tried to change the menu in Pinocchio's Village House so that there would be turkey burgers, and instead of French fries, you would get carrot strips.
I remember that. I went in there to order my food, and I got my food, and I'm like, this isn't what I want.
and again, so the joke is that there were still turkey burgers, frozen turkey burgers, rotting away behind the Magic Kingdom in food services there of people who didn't want to get it. Well, Mickey's Kitchen was the same thing. Eisner wanted... I think we can go on a little tangent, right? I've only got 2 more big items for 1991.
A little tangent?
Yeah, we might as well start now.
Well, the Mickey's Kitchen was going to be connected to the Disney store. And the Disney Kitchen would actually be raised so that people who were eating in the Disney Kitchen could look in and see all of the merchandise and have a longer time to see all of the merchandise that was available. Mm-hmm. Now, again, Eisner wanted something that was healthy. So there was a Mickey burger that was vegetarian. It was made out of walnuts and mush and who knows what. And then there was a Goofy burger, really lean beef. And Tom Tumbush, who wrote the collector things, he went to both Mickey's Kitchen. Mm-hmm. And he said, my observation was that the Goofy burger sold 10 times as many as the Mickey burger. And there were salads, and the dessert was only yogurt. And, they did have, and I would have liked to have seen this. I didn't see it when I went and visited. I only visited the Mickey Kitchen once because it was 30 miles away from Los Angeles at the first place it opened. It only opened in 2 places. And they had French fries cut in the shape of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. I would love to see that today. But then again, it was fried in some type of oil that I guess was healthy or whatever. And so Eisner's philosophy was, we're going to set ourselves up as the healthy alternative. Mm. So people will rush to us, and parents will bring their kids. But all of this is taking place in a mall, and you've got the food courts, And also, this is around the time food courts are developing, but it was right on that edge where there were also... and I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember this, but in some of the early malls, there were food sections throughout the mall, next to a store or whatever. And so Mickey's Kitchen died. So basically what killed WestCOT, see how I can bring this back around because I was a junior high school teacher, so I know how to make those connections. Basically it died because there was the drain of money, from Euro Disney, so a lot of things had to be canceled or put on hold, and then a lot of projects that were being developed just choked, and sometimes that happens. You take a risk and you think this is going to work, and nope, it doesn't. That's it. Goodbye. But going back to Disneyland in 1991, it had... one of the shows that I find very, very delightful, Mickey's Nutcracker. It was a spectacular musical stage show. It lasted, again, like most Disney stage shows, 20, 30 minutes. And it was on the Videopolis stage. I miss the Videopolis stage. I loved it so much. I was even there when they just had folding chairs instead of benches. And no covering over the top, because at night, they cleared the seating area so that young people could dance. Yeah. And trust me, nobody wants to see me dance. Nobody wants to see me try to dance. But there were some wonderful, wonderful shows on the Videopolis stage. I saw the Dick Tracy Diamond Double Cross, which was completely different than the one out in Florida.
I know the two that were
which I
playing
also-
in '91, though.
No. Mickey's Nutcracker was playing there.
Yeah,
So anyway, and
Plane Crazy.
Once Upon a Dream, the show about Walt Disney that then went to Tokyo. Anyway, so basically it's a modern retelling of the Hoffman's children classic, The Nutcracker. And so it was performed at the Videopolis Theater, and I think it was only performed that year. It may have been performed in 1992, but I was never able to confirm that. And the 1991 performance was videotaped and aired on the Disney Channel. So those who would like to see it, you can go to, thank heavens for YouTube, you can go to YouTube, you can see the entire show. And basically Minnie Mouse is hosting a Christmas party at her house, with Pluto, Goofy, Chip and Dale, Roger Rabbit. We tend to forget how prominent Roger Rabbit was in the parks for a short while there.
Yes, I meant to bring that up earlier, but then we didn't. Yeah, the reason why he was on that trading card was because they were still trying to make him the equivalent. They're trying to make him part of the Fab Five.
Yes, yes. A lot of us forget that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is, when it was released, was not a Disney film. What does it share in common with Nightmare Before Christmas?
Touchstone.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Both were released by Touchstone because Eisner did not want the Disney brand on them because he felt it would sully the Disney brand. However, when both of those films became so popular and so beloved, guess what are official Disney films now? Roger Rabbit and Nightmare Before Christmas. But they weren't in the beginning. They were the red-headed children on the edge there, So anyway, after the party at Minnie's house, and there's a voiceover narrator, which is very, very funny. Minnie is too excited to sleep, and she starts dancing with her new Nutcracker, and when midnight strikes, the Nutcracker suddenly comes to life, and it's Mickey Mouse, and there's tap dancing and songs and all of this, and then there's the evil villain, the Rat King, and he was once a handsome prince, but he's under an evil curse, and so he has plans to ruin Christmas, and he picks a fight with the Nutcracker and the Nutcracker soldiers, and Minnie ends up conking out the Rat King on his head when he's attempting to kill the Nutcracker. And the Nutcracker, then very grateful, offers to take Minnie to his home kingdom, Candyland, and using a sleigh being pulled by Pluto as a reindeer. And on their journey, they stop at the Enchanted Snowflake Forest, where they meet and dance with the dancing snowflakes and the queen of the snowflakes. Then they proceed to Candyland, and the Rat King overhears the narrator talking about them going to Candyland, and he worries about going there because his kryptonite is sugar, of all things. So you don't want to go to Candyland. And when they go to Candyland, they're greeted by Mayor Goofy, and Minnie becomes the national heroine for saving the Nutcracker's life. And she's introduced to the town's candy makers, Chip and Dale, and the dentist, Roger Rabbit, and the sheriff, Tigger. And again, there's another song in that. And during this, and I always found this very funny when I first saw the show, the Rat King ties up the narrator and takes over the story. And the first thing he does is he writes into the story that everyone got sick on the candy they ate, okay? Mm-hmm. So they're all out of commission. And he sees that the sheriff is supposed to arrest him, so he tears that page out of the book. And he makes up his own ending in which he takes over Candyland, you know. But the Nutcracker puts a stop to it by clouding him with a bag of sugar. And the sugar turns the Rat King back into a handsome prince. And no longer evil, the prince thanks the Nutcracker for changing him back. And Goofy then asks the narrator how the story ends, and the narrator says, I don't know. The last few pages are torn out. So the Nutcracker comes up with an ending. He asks Minnie if she'd be his princess and stay in Candyland with them, and she happily agrees to do so. And for those of you who are thinking, wait a minute, I think I've heard parts of this story before, years later they did an adaptation of Mickey's Nutcracker for House of Mouse, so it was animated. But they pulled some of the elements, you know, from this story. You know, I don't think the shows at Disneyland ever get enough attention. You know, they're just so well done. They're just so professional. And you leave feeling happy. You leave feeling, oh my gosh, you know. And again, as I said, I went there in 1991 several times, so I saw the show several times, loved it every single time, have the highest regard for the talent that Disney hires for its characters and for its shows. Mm-hmm. One grumble I had in 1991 was outside the America Sings building there's this large sign saying Imagineering, a brand new attraction.
Yes.
Now, why I'm grumbling is that sign had already been hanging there for 3 years, and it took a total of 10 years for something to actually be put into that building. And nothing that was better than America Sings. So,
yeah.
Grumble, grumble, grumble. Let me pull out my old man cane and wave it in the air.
Yeah, it's hard to believe when they were talking about, you know, expanding the resort, and they had that space just sitting there, really prime real estate, you know. So yeah, it's just hard to believe.
Well, you know, Eisner was negotiating with George Lucas to do something with the building. So it was going to be themed as if a flying saucer had crashed into the building. And in there would still be the rotation stage. The flying saucer that crashed was actually an outer space circus. So you would go around and you would see these different acts performing while they're waiting to be rescued. You know, and actually, Eisner told Lucas he could redo all of Tomorrowland. You know, and Lucas felt that was too much to do, but you know, he considered that. And let's wrap up with the reason I took my niece and nephew to Disneyland multiple times and why they were so excited.
Okay. I think
Disney Afternoon Live. Yep. You know, Disney, and again, for you youngins out there, there was a DuckTales before the DuckTales you're watching on Disney Channel these days. Disney Afternoon was the title of a created for syndication 2-hour block of animated television produced by Walt Disney Television Animation, and it featured 4 half-hour series. And so Disney was trying to sell that block across the country, so it was blocking out everything else. You know, Warner Brothers had a 2-hour block. Some of you recall Animaniacs, you know, it was part of that 2-hour block. Anyway, Disney did this to, you know, again, block the competition. And there were several different series that rotated through the block from 1990 when it first appeared and to 1997, and it was composed of Adventures of the Gummy Bears, DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin. Second season, they brought in Darkwing Duck to replace Gummy Bears. So they're always rotating in new series there. but keeping older episodes of the older series. So again, saved on money there. And to help promote the programming, because again, it had appeared in 1990, and to leverage the already growing excitement produced because it was getting such high ratings, Disneyland transformed the walkway from Storyland canal boats to the front of its Small World attraction. They transformed it into Disney Afternoon Avenue that would last from March through the end of November there, because then you're getting the Christmas season starting. Guests entered under an archway with a huge hot air balloon with the characters on top. And so you pass these two-dimensional facades that served basically as themed photo locations where guests could get their pictures taken or meet with costume characters from the series. The facades were very similar in style to the ones that were at Mickey's Birthday Land in Florida, two-dimensional plywood things. And part of the promotion for this excitement was that guests could meet some of their favorite characters from these different TV series that were not usually in the park, including meeting a Beagle Boy or Don Carnage or all the Gummy Bears. And again, I always wonder, what did they do with those costumes after all of that? So anyway, two of the existing attractions got really cheap overlays so that the Fantasyland Autopia became Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers Raceway, and the motorboat cruise became Motorboat Cruise to Gummy Glen, the home of the Gummy Bears. And so as you got in, the only changes to the ride, other than the signage, was you see these two-dimensional cutouts of the various characters along, the side there. So pretty disappointing there. Guests could pick up a free Disney Afternoon Live map that had 28 characters in circles circling the border, and 12 of those circles were incomplete, so guests would then go to a dozen locations, such as Scrooge's Vault, which was a ball pit filled with yellow balls to suggest gold, and so kids could dive in and play in Scrooge's vault and with his wealth there. And Duckburg City Hall, so you wanted to collect the appropriate character stamp, for each circle. And Baloo the Bear's dressing room. I'm thinking about the hot air balloon at the, which was three-dimensional at the front of the park. And I thought, oh, gee, that's really good. And again, where does that stuff go? What do they do with that after that, Anyway, Baloo the Bear's dressing room was a meet and greet location in Stage 1 that had been built under the bridge that now leads into Toontown, since that land hadn't been created yet, and the train crosses overhead. And another reason for that was to test ideas for Mickey's Toontown, including a specific meet and greet location for Mickey Mouse. How do we work out the logistics of, moving this around, and it all worked out. And when Toontown opened, I thought it was great, but then I thought it was way too small, and there was always problems with the Jolly Trolley. There was a video game center. This is what my nephew loved. I said, look at all these other, look what Disney's doing. Loves playing. Guests could sample the new NES video games based on DuckTales and Rescue Rangers for free. So, oh my gosh, he was just over the top. And Videopolis, we're getting back to Videopolis because I love Videopolis, and that's all there is to it. It featured a stage show because Mickey's Nutcracker was a holiday show. It featured a stage show with costume characters, Baloo from Tailspin, Chip 'n Dale from Rescue Rangers, and Launchpad McQuack from DuckTales. Yeah. A show called Plane Crazy, Plane. And it had nothing to do with the Mickey Mouse cartoon. Basically, they were all teaming up. And boy, talk about, Marvel having the Avengers all meet together and how exciting that is. How exciting it is. You get all these characters from the different, Disney Afternoon shows teaming up, and they're trying to stop Don Carnage and Fat Cat from stealing the X-22 spy plane, that they have shrunk, which I thought, oh, this is the cleverest thing in the world, because it was shrunk to the point that they could actually hold it in their hand, you know? And so as they're running around the stage and all of that, you can see, you know, oh, yes, they're going to, it's not this existential thing. It's that, oh, my gosh, look at that. There's the plane. Chip and Dale's got to get over there. You know, my gosh. Memories, memories, memories. And what is the average age of your listeners? Do you know? Are they cranky old folks like us, or are they younger? Or
if I had to guess, probably the average is 35.
They're all young at heart. Okay, they're all young at heart.
Well, as Walt Disney once said, everybody who comes to Disneyland is 10 years old. And that was certainly true of Walt.
Yeah.
But that was it. And I think we've just about come to the end of our time together, right?
Yeah, I think I had a bunch of notes, and as you talked about each thing, I crossed it off because you were hitting all the. I mean, you mentioned Toontown, and they.
I told you I'm a steamroller, and I apologize. I think the listeners want to hear from the two of you as well, and your perspective. And didn't Ken say he was there in 1991?
I was there
too.
But see, here's the thing about. I mean, I wanted to give people more of an overview. Mm-hmm. You know, because we talked about how, you know, the original parking lots there. You know, it's not upgraded to a resort yet, and you pointed out the Afternoon Avenue overlay, but all the things that are not there yet. Toontown hasn't been open to non-Toons.
No.
Star Wars Land isn't there. You know, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The Indiana Jones Adventure isn't there. Fantasmic hasn't even started.
No. And we all just accept these things as, oh, that was always there. That was always there.
No, you know, the Country Bear. You know what? The Country Bears were still there, but you know what else was still there? Mission to Mars was still there, intermittently. But you know, Splash Mountain is still really new. I mean, there's as you pointed out,
and
Fantasyland
really new and not causing any controversy.
Right. Yeah. Well, don't get me started. But you know, as you pointed out, the motorboat cruise was still there because they did the Gummy Glen overlay, and that was the end of it. I mean, after that, the motorboat cruise was gone. But you know, all the stuff that's not there yet.
Captain EO.
Captain EO's still there. Yeah. I mean, it's only 5 years old at that point, which you know is older than some of his noses, but. You know, but
I met Michael Jackson in person once.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I was working as a performer at Six Flags Magic Mountain, doing balloon animals and magic on the street, and I got pulled aside, and I thought, what have I done? I'm trying to keep my nose clean. And it was Michael Jackson wanted to meet me and have me explain how a magic trick worked and all of that. But I was prompted. You do not talk to Michael. You talk to his handler. The handler talks to Michael. And Michael talks to the handler, and the handler talks to you.
Wow.
And you do not talk unless Michael has asked you a question. But he was very nice.
Yeah.
And he loved Disneyland.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Neverland Ranch there. He created that whole floral and train station opening there. You know, and oftentimes I was never invited to Neverland Ranch, but I had friends who were.
You were a little old.
Yeah, I guess. And not that attractive, and that hasn't changed. So anyway, he had his own Autopia car, so he would drive the Autopia car out to the front gate to meet people who were coming in. And he had his own, I can't believe how Imagineering did this, he had his own Pirates of the Caribbean attraction that was all boxed up. He never set it up.
Oh.
But Imagineering built an entire Pirates of the Caribbean attraction for him, and he had it there. I don't know what happened to that. I don't know what happened.
It'll be at the Von Eaton Galleries, but
everything is there.
It should be.
The Disneyland. Okay, at nighttime you have the Main Street Electrical Parade, and you have a very during the summer you have a very simple, compared to what they have now, fireworks show.
Right.
Fantasy in the Sky, Fantasy in the Sky fireworks. You still have
with Tinkerbell.
Yes, and you still have the Skyway running, and you have you still have the submarine voyage without Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
So quite a lot different back then.
People
really.
So again,
Circle Vision is still there.
If you had a time machine, and suddenly it went wonky, and you ended up in 1991. You wouldn't feel so bad.
No, not at all.
And I would see myself there, and I would go, "Oh my goodness, you're just starting your, you've only been here a year. I mean,
yeah,
you look so young."
But the problem is when you're working at Disney, and it's very true for me. You're so involved with doing the work, you're not paying attention to all this other stuff, and you just take it for granted too. That that's always going to be there. Why would I take a photograph of that? Why would I save this brochure? Why,
Yeah. Wow. Well, Jim, I didn't think it was possible, and you did it.
I didn't either. I will be honest with you. When you gave me a list of dates, I decided, what kind of Mickey Mouse Disney historian am I if I'm always picking, the low-hanging fruit?
Right.
Let me challenge myself. And because, again, I keep learning that there was always something at Disneyland, whether it was a celebrity guest, or a short-time promotion, or a special button, or whatever. And because so much happens at Disneyland, we don't pay attention to it. If I said 1959, people would immediately go, "Oh yes, the monorail, the Matterhorn, the submarine ride." I don't think one person would have said, that summer on the weekends, Annette Funicello would dress up as an Indian princess, and she'd be in the Indian village, and she'd be there signing autographs and taking pictures.
Wow.
Because why would you remember that? That's such a small blip, compared to the first 3 attractions,
Wow.
So, yeah. But again, it's always fun talking with the two of you. It's always fun talking to your listeners. And those of you who like my books, I have 2 coming out end of October. One is called Vault of Walt, Volume 10. It's the final volume. I'm closing out the series. I know, because it's getting harder and harder to find this good material and then verify, especially since many of my sources have now passed away or left the company or whatever. And so it's not just finding something, it's verifying something. So the book has an entire chapter on the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh, an entire chapter on Condor Man, an entire chapter on all of the things Richard Williams did at the Disney Studios, including all of those speed bumps, that were tossed his way, so that he didn't care for that. There's a chapter about Walt and his many trips to Hawaii. We talk about his trips to South America and Europe. He went to Hawaii. He went to Tahiti. I've documented all of those. There's a chapter on Disney postage stamps, and all the differences too. You should be looking for. So yeah, I think I'm going out on a high note.
Good.
And then the other book that's coming out end of October to celebrate Walt Disney World's 50th is called the Walt Disney World 50th Anniversary Quizmaster Challenge. 250 questions and answers. And when I say answer, that means several sentences or a paragraph. Because if you get it wrong, you want to know what it was, and if you got it right, you sometimes want to know why is that right, and what were some of those other, because I made it all multiple choice. I'm a junior high school teacher. True false doesn't do anything, and short answer is a pain in the rear to grade. So I made it all multiple choice, and I put the answers in a separate section so you can just read the answers if you want. And then there's also some other additional sections, like 50 things that went extinct at Walt Disney World, and the 50 things that were never built at Walt Disney World, and 50, So, again, those of you who are interested, vote with your wallet. If that book sells okay, my publisher says I can do one on Disneyland.
Ooh.
And speaking of Disneyland, I'm hard at work, almost finished, although a book always takes longer than you expect, and the closer you get to the end, the longer it seems to take. A very special book about Disneyland that had never, ever been written before, and I'm dedicating it to the two guys running this podcast because they were the inspiration for me to sit down and do that research on Disney history.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity of being on and sharing this information. And if anybody listening, if you heard some of these little tangents we went on, and you want to hear more about them, talk to these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we highly recommend your books. We always
absolutely
tell everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely. I put them on. In my family, our extended family uses a shopping list system to get gifts because there's so many people in the extended family. So, and I always put your books on my list.
Well, thank you. That's so kind. Thank you.
Because I know that if I say, I even put a note. I say, literally, get me any book by Jim Korkis, and it'll be all right.
Well, I do try my hardest on every single book, and I try my hardest too to verify everything from 3 independent sources. And if I can't verify it, then it doesn't go in the book. And and some books sell a lot better than others. My last 2 books, Kungaloosh, the Jungles of Walt Disney World, where I have an entire chapter where I interviewed the Imagineer who created Trader Sam's for Anaheim and for Walt Disney World. So it goes on for many, many pages where he talks about the choices that he made and the differences between the 2 locations and all that. And then the book, Hidden Treasures of the Walt Disney World Resort Hotels, where I devote a chapter to each hotel, and not about, how do you get the best rate or what has the best pool or whatever, but the stories behind that. This is the theming that you're missing when you're in there. And you're rushing to the park, to use your do Fast Pass even exist anymore? Has the Genie system superseded that now, or?
Oh, that was another thing that wasn't back there in 1991. No Fast Pass or Genie or Max Pass or boarding groups. None of that. It was you had to show up and wait in line, and that was it.
That's it. Yeah, and no reservations for the restaurants. You walked in, and if there was a space available, you got seated and fed.
Wow.
Memories.
Well.
That's why I asked about the average age of your listeners, because some younger people may be scratching their head and going, "What?" I talked about my niece and nephew. They're now. They now have families of their own, and they go to Disney, but they know more than I do in terms of, yes, you have to get this app, and you have to get it done by this, and you have to have this time, and to get this reservation and boarding pass, and blah blah blah. And I went, what?
Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on. I know everyone's
Again, my pleasure. Please feel free to invite me back again. I know all the good years are taken, but maybe we'll find something in some of the other ones.
Well, what we do is every year, as I explain, is so this year is 2021, so all the years ending in 1. So next year it'll be all the years ending in 2.
Jim, you can come back when we do 1952 next year.
Actually, I have something to say about 1952.
I'm sure you do.
I can do an hour about the Mickey Mouse Park, which was across the street from the Burbank studio.
We'll do it.
And I can tell you about what some of the early planning was for when that got canceled by Burbank into doing, looking for land, like looking in Calabasas and all of that for land for Disneyland.
We should have you on there when we talk about 1962. We should do that where you can jump back 10 years to talk about 1952. Mm-hmm. That would be great. Yeah.
Well, and yes, I'm certainly no stranger about jumping all over the place. well, the thing is I really want to get this information out there, especially to those people who are interested in it. Because, again, the Disney company has always been an oral history company. Even when it was the Disney studio making animation, if somebody came up and had a question about Steamboat Willie, they'd say, oh, yeah, go down to Special Processes and talk to Ub Iwerks. He worked on that. He can answer any questions. It never occurred to anyone, what happens when these people die? What happens when these people leave? What happens when these people forget?
Yeah.
Which, again, is one of the reasons Roy Disney brought in Dave Smith to, let's try to get some of this stuff organized.
Well, we better sign off here. We're still recording our show, so.
Okay, then we're out of here. May all your Disney dreams come true. Buy my books, listen to this podcast, and eat your vegetables and stay out of trouble. And remember, if you eat healthy and you exercise every day, you're still going to die anyway.
Wow.
Thank you for that uplifting message.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, well, that concludes episode 319.
Wow.
Wow, right?
1991, well, I mean, things have changed a lot in the 30 years, you think about it. My favorite, the Disney Gallery was up there, above Pirates, and there was, Splash Mountain was new, they had the Country Bears, no Fantasmic, no Haunted Mansion Holiday, no Small World Holiday, no Fast Pass, no Indiana Jones, and you still had the Tarzan's Treehouse wasn't there because you still had the Tiki Room, and I think maybe in 1991 they still had Tahitian Terrace. I'm pretty sure they still had Tahitian Terrace instead of Aladdin's Oasis, which is now Tropical Hideaway.
Yeah.
And of course, like I mentioned, Mission to Mars was still open. That. The empty America Sang building was still sitting there, and they had the Circle Vision, Peoplemover, Skyway. I mean, quite a different park, and the Afternoon Avenue stuff was just kind of garish. That was, of course, thankfully it was temporary. So I mean, I understand why they did it. They wanted to promote the programming block, but so. Wow, I mean, it just didn't realize how much the park had changed since then, and of course talking about what the plans were for the expansion. That was so. Jim's always great. Definitely, I'm serious when I say check out Jim's books. If there's hardly any better books to have if you're into the facts of Disney history.
For sure, and we appreciate you listening, and go to our website. We have t-shirts and the current event notes with Ken mentions the links to all these articles he reads in current events, and much more. And we hope to see you at Unicon, and we will be doing more events in the year 2022. There's a few things we need to confirm, but we hope to be doing some more next year. Hope to see people out there. And thanks again, and we'll talk with you next time.